Let me read to you something that I wrote earlier today and that applies certainly to the United States, to many countries that are going through a very authoritarian period, and to a very good part of the world. I find it interesting that I've been hearing the term the social pact or the social contract more and more in various internet editorials. Uh, I will come back to this, but let me start by speaking about competition policy or the regulation of competition, essentially what the Federal Trade Commission does in the United States. I remember that when I studied economics or later when I studied business, it was understood that regulators viewed many forms of price discrimination with far greater suspicion than they do today. At that time, it was perfectly understood that companies should not sell the same product to two different persons at two different prices. That was called price discrimination. In economic theory, there is something called the consumer surplus, which is the difference between what you would be willing to pay for something, let's say your medicine, and the lower price that you get to pay thanks to competition. Well, the consumer surplus is one of the most important concepts in the defense of capitalism because it is through the sum of all those consumer surpluses in different products that the regular citizens and the families get the benefits of the free market. Economic theory predicts that a monopolist does exactly the opposite. A monopoly has the incentive and the ability to move prices much closer to what we call the willingness to pay of the consumer, thereby capturing a larger share that would otherwise remain as this consumer surplus. As long as the price is above the cost, they will try to sell expensive to the wealthier people or the people that need the product more, and sell it cheap to poorer people or people that need the product less. Well, today it shocks me to say that Amazon and other platforms carry out price discrimination with such ease that they even have a very fancy term for it. It's called dynamic pricing. It is now common in many other things, noticeably airline tickets and hotel rooms. And I really, at this point in time, can't imagine how many things are being charged to us individually according to our bank balance and other variables. Nobody from the US government will say anything negative about anyone carrying out dynamic pricing. The same is true for vertical mergers. The vertical mergers once faced a lot of skepticism from antitrust authorities. Today, they are often unopposed on the grounds that they may create efficiencies. The Federal Trade Commission was headed by this lady, her last name was Khan, and she was trying to build a case against Facebook for buying all its possible competitors. Of course, as soon as Trump came to power, Mrs. Khan was let go of the Federal Trade Commission, which was a great loss to that organism. Let's talk about another topic, patents. Patents were intended to reward innovation with a temporary monopoly. Increasingly, though, today, legal strategies are used to extend that monopoly far beyond what was originally envisioned. And the government, your government, is again not there to protect your interests. Look at how relaxed the enforcement of the norms against insider trading is right now. When I was in school, it was morally reprehensible and legally very costly potentially to incur in insider trading. Today, the owners of betting markets argue that insider trading is simply market arbitrage and that it is good for the economy. These that I've spoken about are issues having to do with competition policy. I won't even go into campaign financing or lobbying or the revolving door practice, which are also the three of them in a very bad place at this point in time. I go back now to the concept of the social contract. The government is supposed to be a sample of citizens temporarily entrusted with making and enforcing the rules for all of us. That is the contract. They are part of society, and their main target should not be to hold on to power at any cost. But today, there is increasingly outrage out there on the internet regarding the passionate love affair between the government and corporations. If you add to that the rise of artificial intelligence, the difficulty that our sons and daughters are having to get even a job interview, don't say a job, just a job interview, and if you add to that the impossibility of them, our sons and daughters, ever buying a house, you can venture out the idea that we are standing in the ashes of what used to be. We really need to build something different and do it fast. At the heart of this problem that we have as citizens is tribalism. Tribalism has become so deeply rooted in us that many voters forgive in their own political camp what they would have fiercely condemned in their opponents only a few years ago. Don't follow the script. You and your neighbor, even if he belongs to the other party, have far more in common with each other than either of you has in common with the people trying to divide you. Remember that.